Who are you? Hey Crash, today we're going to talk about identity. More specifically, what makes us who we are, and what makes us different from other people.
Look at my beautiful fringe. Nothing can touch me in my beautiful fringe.
Crash!
I was listening! You said something about dentistry.
Not dentistry, identity. I'm surprised you're not more interested in the topic considering how self-obsessed you are.
There's nothing wrong with looking out for number one. Besides, why wouldn't I be obsessed with myself? I'm awesome, I'm handsome, funny, and have an impeccable sense of style.
We wear the same clothes.
Yeah, but I pull it off better. Mark my words, Culture. One of these days, you'll see my name up in lights.
To be honest, if I see the name Crash on a billboard, I'd think there had been a traffic accident. But you raise a good point. What is it about a name that seems so intrinsically linked to ourselves? When you imagine your name, it probably has some sort of special detail to it. Maybe you see it written in a special font or a certain color you like. Or maybe there's just a feeling you get, a warmth in your core. In any case, your name represents you and embodies you. But when we think about a name from a more objective standpoint, what is its purpose?
My name is an abbreviation, so that instead of people saying, "Hey amazing person that I want to have sex with," they can instead say, "Hey Crash."
Yeah, nah. When your parents pick a name for you, it's so that you can be identified by others. The creation of a name represents an agreement between a society and the individual, that the name allows attribution of both merit and responsibility. Yet over time we transform this name. It becomes more than just a string of syllables used to get your attention. It becomes synonymous with the self. That's why we say things like, "I am," instead of "my name is," in most situations. Put it this way, imagine how you'd feel if someone came up to you and said, "Hi, Crush."
I wouldn't be surprised. People fall in love with me all the time. And can you blame them? Check out these fucking abs!
What I meant is that they mispronounced your name. Whether on purpose or by accident, you would feel disrespected. The fact that they got your name wrong, in your mind at least, means that they didn't take the time or didn't care enough to learn it. You would be insulted.
Huh. I suppose that's true.
And names can be the one part of us that lives on after we die, that carries our legacy. In the book Real Men by Frank Rose, Rose describes how the Virginia Military Academy deals with rebellion. When sacred rules are broken, the offender is punished not only by exile, but also by de-identification in the eyes of their society, expunging their name from the record. This is marked by a ceremony in which the other cadets march, announcing the offender's name, the crime they have committed, and a promise never to utter their name again. They rob the individual of their achievements by doing so.
So then, the self is in a name. Glad we finished up early. I have some eyebrow plucking to do before my date tonight.
But a person's name can change, and two people can share the same name, so in that way we cannot easily distinguish who someone is based on their name alone. A name is simply shorthand for the self, but it is not in and of itself the self.
What?
It made more sense in my head. What I'm saying is that there has to be some other unifying feature, some substance. Perhaps it's the body. No two people share the same body, right? But the fact is that even the body changes. Of course it changes as we grow, but it can also change as the result of injury or illness. The cells in our body are constantly dying and being replaced by new cells. It's a little bit like the ship of Theseus example from our 10 Crazy Paradoxes video. Crash, you already know about this, so how about you recap for the audience?
Fine. Basically, parts of the ship of Theseus are replaced one at a time until eventually no original parts remain. The original parts are later reassembled into a ship. The question is, which of these ships is the ship of Theseus?
Thanks. So we have the same problem here with our bodies. But contrary to popular belief, the entire body is not replaced every 7 years. Firstly, different cells are replaced at different rates, and secondly, neurons in the cerebral cortex can never be replaced, lasting our whole lifetime. So it's possible then that our self is stored in the brain.
That's certainly convenient considering you're the smart one. Why couldn't the self be stored in bulging muscles?
Damn, you've been working out. Don't stress, Crash. There are issues with this theory as well. One famous case involves a man known as Phineas Gage, who, apart from having the best name ever, was an American railroad construction foreman. One day, Gage was setting charges along the track by placing explosive powder in holes. He would then use a metal rod known as a tamping iron to pack, aka tamp, sand in on top of the explosive powder. However, as he moved the rod, it hit stone, creating a spark and igniting the powder. The tamping iron was effectively shot through his skull, piercing his jaw and left frontal lobe. And in case that wasn't crazy enough, he lived. In fact, within minutes he was walking himself back to his house for treatment.
Damn! I bet he didn't get many girls after that.
But the story takes a twist. The brain damage he suffered drastically altered his personality. And I don't just mean because he suddenly started shouting, "Oh my god, there's a metal spike in my skull." His friends originally described him as a shrewd businessman, but now he was fitful, irreverent, and indulging at times in the greatest profanity. Now I think about it, Crash, did you have an iron rod blasted through your head as well?
I'm all class culture. I would never be so vulgar. You slimy fucking cum rag.
In any case, despite the radical personality change, it would seem inappropriate to say that he was no longer Phineas Gage, when it seems so apparently obvious that he still is. But if you still don't believe that self isn't tied to personality, then maybe this next example will do the trick. The teletransporter thought experiment was presented by Oxford philosopher Derek Parfit in his 1984 book, Reasons and Persons, but similar arguments have been made as far back as 1775. Let's say that a teleporter to Mars exists that operates by scanning your body, disintegrating it, and then making an atom-for-atom replica on Mars using a storage of carbon, oxygen, etc. The question is this replica still you?
I mean, yeah, of course. I've still got the same rockin' bod and awesome personality, so why not? And I can hit on all the hot Martian babes as well now.
Well, then you'll love this next scenario even more. Imagine that the teleporter company rings you up at the hotel you're staying at, where you're having your lurid love affairs with aliens.
Which has a huge heart-shaped bed and a mirror on the ceiling.
Ugh, sure, whatever. So anyway, they call you up and tell you that there was an error with the teletransporter. The original copy of you was never deleted. Essentially, there are now 2 copies of you roaming both Earth and Mars.
I'd say send him over as well. There's a lot of work to do here.
But honestly, whose actions would you be tracking? Would you still be in your body on Earth or the new body on Mars? See, the issue here is consciousness. It's difficult to imagine that you are simultaneously in control of both bodies. In fact, this very idea is addressed by English philosopher and physician John Locke. In Locke's treatise, An Essay Concerning Human Understanding, he asserts that personal identity is tied to consciousness, not the substance of a mind, soul, or body. Specifically, Locke places the self as a series of repeated acts of consciousness concerning thoughts of the past, future, and present.
Yep, that made no sense.
It's hard to explain, but think of it this way. From moment to moment, your consciousness has always been under your control. You've been a part of every sequence of your life, and no one else has. There's no substance to yourself, but rather the self is an acknowledgement of this continuity of thoughts. But if this is true, then how can we attribute actions to someone? In the case of heavy drug use, for example, the criminal in question was not engaging in repeated acts of consciousness during the crime, and thus, by this definition, is absolved of guilt.
Wait, what? But they still did the crime whether they were aware of it or not.
And yet the insanity plea is consistently used in court based on that exact line of reasoning. A similar idea is known as the bundle theory of self that was first put forward by Scottish philosopher David Hume. In his words, man is a bundle or collection of different perceptions which succeed one another with an inconceivable rapidity and are in perpetual flux and movement.
Perpetual flux and movement sounds like me in bed.
I've heard inconceivable rapidity is more your style.
What have those Martian ghosts been saying about me?
What Hume is getting at is that these perceptions do not belong to any one thing, the self instead being identified as the togetherness of these views. In other words, they are unified by their succession of one another, which sort of sounds redundant. Philosopher James Giles instead asserts that the bundle theory of self is really a no-self theory. That is to say that we need not attribute anything to a self because the self does not exist, instead being an evolutionary artifact.
But there has to be a self. No self means no me, and no me means no one for people to be jealous of.
It's okay, Crash. There's a simple solution to all of this. Well, sort of. The basic point of identity is to distinguish one thing from another. We do so by saying that something is either the same or different. As we've seen through these various thought experiments, there always seems to be some way of separating our mind or our body from ourself. Possibly we cannot say that 2 things are exactly the same, but we can prove that they share many things in common, or, conversely, that they have many things which differ. For example, the replicas created in the teletransporter experiment have the same genes, same memories, etc., but do not share the same stream of consciousness as Locke would define it. They also do not share the same space, and their physical bodies were created at different times.
Oh, so you're suggesting that we view identity as a sum of all of the aspects you've told me about? Name, body, mind, consciousness, and personality.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Perhaps an identity combines all facets, That is to say that only when every single criterion matches can we say that two things are absolutely 100% the same. And when we only share certain aspects of our identities, we can consider this a confluence of physical or personality traits.
Look, all I really want to know is what should I make a solid gold statue of so that people can remember and admire me? My name? My brain? My, schlong?
I'd say you're a schlong.
Wow, really? I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Well, it'd be the cheapest to produce since it requires so little material. Where do you guys think the self lies? What makes you unique? Tell us in the comments below.
Follow CultureCrash on social media!